guys, and welcome back to another video with me, Priyanka the Minecraft Girl. And I started the series in which I read books for you. And the book I started reading recently is The Crash by Tracey Baptiste. I have already read the first chapter for you in my other video. So you can check that video out to get the first chapter of the story. Now, I'll be moving on to the second chapter of this book. There was a halo of light over me. I panicked for a moment until I realized it was just a street lamp. I must have been lying on the ground. Only I couldn't feel anything. Not the ground, not my body. I couldn't even move. I tried to say something, but my mouth didn't work either. A woman with a blonde ponytail leaned over me. Frowning, she looked up and mouthed something to someone I couldn't see. No, she was talking, but I couldn't hear her. I couldn't hear anything. Only my eyes seemed to work. And even that, everything was dim and restricted, as if I could only look up. I tried to move something, anything, a finger, my tongue. Nothing worked. I wondered if I was dead and my spirit was just hanging out for a bit before it went to wherever spirits go. Maybe it was stuck too and couldn't move. Maybe we were both paralyzed. So the blonde lady was wearing a t-shirt that had a patch that read something like Holy Angels Hospital Emergency Technician Medical. No, Emergency Medical Technician. She seemed to be moving her hands over my body, doing I don't know what, because I still couldn't feel anything or move my eyes enough to see. I wondered if we were still at the site of the accident, if Lonnie was nearby, if he was in the same shape as me, if the other driver was there too, if he could feel anything, if my parents or my sister knew where I was, if this was where I'd die. My vision wobbled and shifted as if I was being moved. The halo of light from the street lamp was gone. Above me, the sky was dark, much darker than it was when Lonnie and I had left the park. I tried to think of how long it takes for the sky to get so dark. A few minutes, hours, how long had I been there anyway? Then my other senses started to come back. First, the EMT's voice rang out over me. Get here, in the rig. Behind that was the sound of sirens. People shuffling about, shouting things I couldn't make out, and the unmistakable sound of metal warping. I heard the crunch of gravel underfoot, and the click of something snapping into the place beneath me. I was being moved slowly and smoothly. The stars twirled above me. Smell came next. A burst of pungent smoke and an acrid rubber, sweat and something earthy. Then I tasted blood in my mouth. I moved my tongue and tried to feel around. Everything was tender and I felt jagged pieces against the tip and bare spaces of swollen gums. More sounds, screaming, crying, moaning. The car's alarm was going off as the robo-voice calmly intoned that the help was on the way. Lights flashing red against the shiny white paint of the ambulance. The inside of the ambulance, smooth white roof, metal latches on supply bins overhead, the face of the EMT lady and another guy leaning over me, one smiling, the other frowning. Only I kept mixing up which was which because my eyes couldn't focus on one or the other. And I kept being bumped and the siren was going. So we must have been on our way to Holy Angels Hospital. I guess we hit a smooth, straight patch of road and my vision became less jangly. It was the man. The man was smiling. Next, I was lifted out and the smell of antiseptic immediately washed over me. The hospital lights were a bright white. Someone should tell them that it wasn't soothing. They should get halo lights like the ones out on the street. I closed my eyes and heard squeaky sneakered feet running beside me as the wheels on the gurney swiveled and bumped over the hospital floor. I saw the light still beaming down through my eyelids, and I could tell every time someone leaned over me because they cast my face in shadow. Suddenly, I started to feel again. It began like a wave at my eternities. My feet and hands felt like the skin had been peeled back. I could feel everything, and it was all pain. I screamed out, and the running picked up speed. The pain moved inward to my stomach and then radiated out to the top of my head. There was nothing that didn't hurt. My legs, my arms, my torso, my neck, my head, my mouth, my eyes. I felt like I'd been through a grinder. I couldn't stop screaming, even though it hurt my throat even more. I just couldn't stop. I think they were trying to make it stop. I could feel them moving me, jostling me, and I could hear them trying to tell me something, but I couldn't make anything out over the sound of my own screaming. I could only make out the way I felt and the way everything hurt. And I thought, is this dying? I tried to tell them, make it stop! And then everything did. I woke up in a small beige room with vertical vinyl blinds and equipment beeping around me. There were two upholstered chairs with wooden arms sitting on either side of a beige plastic table with attached wheels. A blue blanket covered my body. I couldn't see what condition I was in other than my legs appeared to be much larger than usual. So I figured out they were both in casts. They didn't just increase in size. Whew, I was glad. Awesome! I couldn't see my arms either. I tried to move them and couldn't. Either I was armless or whatever anesthesia they had on me hadn't dissipated yet. I felt groggy with a side order of a dull pain all over. At least I could move my eyes to look around. I was alone. It was just me and the beeping monitors and a pink plastic jug that was sweating out on the weird table. But no cups. I stuck my tongue out of my mouth. My lips were dry. I could have used some water, but my voice didn't seem to be working, so I couldn't ask even if I wasn't alone. I tried to move my fingers to see if there was a call button or something nearby to let anyone know that I was awake and they could start tending to me or telling me what happened or anything, but I still couldn't feel my fingers or tell whether or not I still had any. I wondered what I looked like. I wondered where everyone was, and mostly I wondered what happened to Lonnie. Where did he go? Was he in another room in the hospital? I just kept wondering. I was worried about my best friend. When I woke up again, I got an eyeful of hospital ceiling tile. The really generic kind that's a hybrid of grey and beige. My foggy mind thought, grayish? Grey plus beige, I guess. Laid out in a grid that makes you want to count it, especially if it's the only thing you can see. The lights were dim and I couldn't tell if this was the same room I was in before or if I'd been moved. It was smaller than I remembered and there seemed to be less humming and beeping than the last room. I was conscious. That was progress, I guessed. I tried to move but was unsuccessful again. And this time I couldn't see my body at all because I was lying flat. Maybe my legs had disappeared or my entire body. I wondered if a person could technically survive as just a head. So, do you think a person can survive as just a head? I don't know. I might be at the moment, but I'm not sure. I also considered that the medicines were making me loopy. It seemed a wise assessment of my mental faculties. The door opened and closed and opened and closed, and I heard my mother whispering, "How much longer do you think? It's going to be a difficult recovery, Mrs. Marshall. Her injuries are extensive. We're going to have to take it one day at a time. So I guess my mother and the doctor were having a conversation I could faintly hear. I heard something like a muffled cry and then my father's voice. Carrie would like to see her. I'll bring her by after school. Carrie didn't have school on Saturday. I wanted to ask what they were talking about, but then it occurred to me that it probably wasn't Friday anymore, or even the weekend. I tried to say, hey guys, but what came out was rather elegant. Oh, I'd been reduced to the vocabulary of a Minecraft villager. Crash. My parents ran over to the side of the bed, excited that I had been seemed able to vocalize at all. Hey, I tried again. Ugh, came out. Bianca, my mother said softly. Tears rolled down her face, tracing light brown tracks in her makeup. But she was sad. How are you feeling? My father asked. I tried to nod. It hurt a lot. Next, a woman in a white coat came up and my parents moved away. She had large, dark brown eyes and a black braid that came down over one shoulder. When she leaned in closer, her hair moved away from her name tag. It read, Dr. Nair. Nay, I guess. I could faintly see it. Yeah, it read Dr. Nay. Hello, Bianca, she said. Glad to see you awake. How long have I been out? I tried to ask, but there was more moaning and some drooling, I'm sorry to say. My mother leaned in with a paper towel to catch the dribble, wearing her worried face. It's been almost a week since your accident, Dr. Nee said, as if I were perfectly coherent. You're finally stabilized enough for us to wake you. What's the damage, doctor? Dr. Nee tapped a few buttons on her tablet and a hologram projected from a camera attached to the tablet's edge. A miniature version of me displayed before my eyes. It was eerie, like looking at a blueprint version of yourself. You're very lucky, Bianca. If you'd had the same accident a few years ago, I'm not sure we would have had the right technology to help you through it. I certainly didn't feel very lucky, like being in a full body cast and all, but I took her word for it. Dr. Nee tapped a few more buttons and the hologram of my body glowed red in nearly 10 different spots. The news was abysmal. 2 broken arms, a broken thigh bone, 3 broken bones in my right foot, 2 broken ribs, a collapsed lung, and a concussion. I look like a game of operation gone horribly wrong. Good thing you're a fighter, Dr. Nee said. I didn't recall being aware enough to fight or know who was around me or even how I managed to get to this hideous place, to this hideous little room that smelled of pine cleaner, medicine. But I knew was. Maybe the smell, the horrible smell in the room, was my own puke, my own pee. That's disgusting, but it probably maybe was. You know all that happens when people get sick, right? Dr. Nee leaned over me and adjusted the flow rate on a bag that fed into an IV. I suddenly felt something on my right go colder and I smiled again, able to feel my arm at last. The coldness spread and washed over me. Then more dullness descended like a fog. Dr. Nee continued talking over me to my parents. There seemed to be a lot to tell. I tried to follow along, but I was struggling to hear. I was struggling to feel. I was just struggling, like swimming upstream against a strong tide. And then it was lights out again. 3rd time's the charm. I thought when I woke up again, this time the light was brighter. My body was propped up, and I could see around the beige room with the covered chairs, the plastic table with the wheels, and the sweating pink jug again. Deja vu. Except for my father, who was sitting in one of the chairs reading Infotech magazine. For an old guy, he's always on the cutting edge of all the newest tech stuff. Well, I guess it's his job. Hey, I said. This time it actually came out as a recognizable word, which surprised me. so I made a little sound that was half hiccup and half moan. Yeah, it was as weird as you imagine. Trust me. My father practically jumped out of the chair. Hey, he said, how are you feeling? I shrugged, or at least I thought I did. I don't think any part of me actually moved. What happened? I asked, knowing full well what happened but unable to come up with a better question. You got banged up pretty badly, he said in a low voice, as if saying it any louder might make things worse. He reached over to one beeping machine and touched the screen. It made me nervous, but nothing happened. You're going to be here a while, he sighed. You had a couple of surgeries, and there are some casts. He put his warm hand on my forehead. We had to get you a plastic surgeon too, so the scarring would be so bad. I must have flinched or something, and his face blanched. It's not so bad, and you'll be fine. You're out of the woods, as they say. He chuckled, wrapped his magazine on the plastic bed rail, and took a step back. He clearly didn't want to say any more. Lonnie? I asked. What? He asked. His face looked totally pained. Then he blinked a couple of times and looked ill. Bianca. The door opened and Dr. Ney strode in. Good morning, Bianca. How are you feeling? Like I'd been hit by a car. I wanted to joke but thought better of it. My father stepped aside so she could get closer. She took the stethoscope from around her neck and listened to my chest. Breathing's good finally. Wasn't I breathing? When wasn't I breathing good? I wondered. She looked over at my father and nodded. She's a champ, this one. Then she turned to a tablet that she had placed on the table, tapped the screen a couple of times. Smurf me, blue and floating above the device, reappeared as Dr. Ney walked me through all the surgeries that had happened while I had been out. All the tests are coming back better, she said. Now, it's just a matter of recovery, which means you may be here at the hospital a bit while longer. My father looked at me with his sad eyes, and I felt my heart sink. How much was this going to cost us in bills? How much school was I going to miss? We've administered the strongest painkillers we can under the circumstances. The doctor continued, looking at my father, but the nurses said, she's still waking up every few hours trying to move. She is at the most we can safely give her right now, which is probably why she's awake and comfortable enough, but we have to make sure she stays still. I didn't remember waking up. I didn't remember pain. But the look of horror my father gave me said that he'd probably seen this, waking up, live and in person. I couldn't feel anything more for a moment, just like Bianca. Let me continue. What I'm saying is that we're not going to be able to give her any more for a while, and she's awake, so it might be a difficult evening. My father nodded. The muscles around his jaw tightened, and his fists gripped the bed rail hard enough that I thought it might snap. I'll be with her all night, he said. Her mother will be here in the morning. We'll get through it. With that, Dr. Neil left, and my father adjusted the blankets that were covering me. Slowly, the sensations in my body started coming back, and I began to understand what Dr. Neil was talking about, and why my father had looked so worried. It was like being dipped slowly into molten lava. You may be thinking, oh, sure, I can have a toe seared off or even my foot, no prob. But it just kept on consuming more and more and more and more of my body. I felt weak with pain. Even looking at my father's face hurt because he couldn't do anything, and I was mad at him for not being able to do anything, and then mad at myself because I knew he was helpless and this was torture for him too. But also, it was also my own fault. It was all my own fault. It was the middle of the night when I woke up again. My father was asleep on the chair with a magazine draped over his chest. His shoes were off and he was snoring lightly. The door to my room was open and a shard of light hit my face from what I guessed was a nurse's station. I still couldn't find a call button, but I figured that the time had passed for more medicine because everything felt dull again. The pain was down to a smolder. I would have liked some water, but I didn't want to wake up my dad. I had no idea how long he'd been up. His clothes were a mess. His usually neat hair was a tangled mat. He might have been here for, I guess, hours, if not days, without a break. Someone had to be home with Carrie. I remember he said something about him and Mom switching out, so maybe he was due for a break soon. But there was a huge part of me that was glad that my father was asleep and there was no one I could call, because I knew the moment they thought I was well enough, the moment they figured I could handle like a real conversation, there were going to be a lot of questions, a lot of them, and then they'd all know what I'd done, that everything was my own fault. A shadow crossed my door, and someone with a small voice whispered, "Hey, hey," I managed. And then a boy about 11 years old walked in, wearing pajamas that said Gamer for Life, and a robe with glow in the dark planets all over it. "Who?" I asked. It was all I could manage. My throat hurt to talk. "I'm AJ in the next room," he said. He came a little closer, but stopped when my dad snorted a really loud snore. The kid seemed surprised. Anyone else was in here. AJ came up to the machine with the IV and tapped the screen. This seemed to be an established way of communicating with the patients. I made a note of it, for if I ever went into another patient's room, assuming I was ever able to talk or walk again. "I'm Bianca Marshall." "I know. I saw your chart when Dr. Nay came in." "Oh," I said. He grinned. "Lonnie," I said. "Elin Lawrence." It took a lot out of me to manage that much. AJ looked confused. He shook his head. His tight dark curls wobbled on his head. "No, you're Bianca," he said, stressing every syllable in my name. "My friend," I said. "We were in a car. He might be worse." AJ's eyebrows shot up. "Worse than you?" he asked. "You're pretty bad. Any worse off than you would probably be dead." I waited for him to laugh or grin or say that he was just joking, but this kid was straight up telling the truth as he saw it. And there was a stabbing pain across the top of my head that told me that he was right, that worse off than me was not survivable, and that if anyone had something good to tell me about Lonnie, they would have already. "I could sneak into the nurse's station and see if I can find his chart, though," AJ offered. This had the immediate effect of dulling the pound anxiety that was rising through my chest. Or maybe it was the medication. There were a series of beeps, and then the machines around me whirred a bit. Seconds later, I started feeling a little better. "Thanks, AJ," I said when he turned to leave. I saw something in his hand. "What's that?" He turned back. "These?" He held up something that looked like a white plastic headband. "Oh, they're VR goggles," he said. He moved closer to show them off. "You can watch movies and stuff, but I've been playing Minecraft." "I like Minecraft." "Yeah?" AJ's eyes really lit up at that. "My friend and I have been building a world together," I said, a little surprised at how much I could talk. I glanced at the nearest machine. Yup, it was definitely painkiller time. The kid blinked and nodded, I guess waiting for me to add some detail. "It has lots of villages with different configurations and rules and stuff." That brightened the kid right up. "Oh yeah, I just like to play survival mode. I use mods though, and I even made some of them myself." "That's cool," I said. "You should check these goggles out then," he said. "They'll blow your mind." Before I could respond, AJ had come up to the side of the bed, placed the goggles on my head. The two ends pinched the sides of my temple, though compared to what the rest of my body was feeling at the moment, it was nothing. I felt a tickling sensation on either side of my face, and it spread across my forehead. Suddenly, the pain across my head rose like a tidal wave, but I tried not to moan or wince because I didn't want to upset a kid who probably figured he was doing me a solid. I opened my eyes and was surprised to see that the hospital room had completely disappeared. The game was already queued up, paused in the middle of whatever AJ had been doing before. It's a little weird at first, he warned me, but you get used to it after a while. He wasn't kidding. Being thrust into a fully realized world that was mid-play was disorienting. It was brighter than my hospital room, that's for sure, and the unrealistic cartoon shades of green and brown and blue felt a little like a smack in the face. I started looking around at the forest biome, I mean. Even my pronunciation's gone after all this paralyzation and stuff. You guys know. So I was looking around at the forest biome I'd been shoved into and realized that if I looked somewhere else for a mile, I'd start moving in that direction. The movement was sudden and made me want to hurl immediately. I closed my eyes and tried to breathe deeply, not wanting to say that I wanted out. I had a small child to impress, after all. Plus, there was a feeling of just being a head with no body. I tried to move again and felt a lurch in my stomach. Are you going to throw up? AJ asked. No. I. Maybe you should stop, he said. Without warning, he pulled the goggles off, and to tell you the truth, I don't think this was any better. Returning to the real dull world made me feel extra sick, and I turned to the other side of the bed, away from the kid, and threw up. As I tried to wipe my mouth on the edge of my blanket, AJ backed away to the door. My father stirred but didn't wake up. A nurse came running in, looked at the kid, at me, back at him, and then walked slowly over to clean me up. There was hurl in my braids. I wasn't really thinking about my aim when I spewed. Gross, AJ said. Get back to your room, said the nurse. I'll come check on you later. You know you're not supposed to be walking around, and you're definitely not supposed to be in other people's room disturbing them. My dad woke up then, straightened, and tried to make sense of what was going on. AJ made a face, but backed all the way up to the door. Getting out and in and out is tricky, he said. Not everybody can do it. There's a different way out you can use that I can show you. He shrugged. It's mostly for noobs. Get out of what? My father asked. Just the game, AJ said, showing him the goggles. I took offense at that noob comment and wanted to tell him that I could obviously do it. I was not at my best in this moment, lying in a hospital bed mashed to a pulp with the nurse wiping vomit off me. I watched him back off into the hall and disappear. But I was going to show him that I could. I was no noob. What kind of a gamer would I be if I couldn't do it? So friends, this was just chapter 2 of this book, and I really enjoyed reading it out and reading it for you guys. And I hope you enjoyed listening to chapter 2 of the book Minecraft The Crash by Tracey Baptiste. And I will be reading chapter 3 in my next video about this wonderful book, as Bianca, a young girl, shares her life story and how she fought through consequences in which she ended up. So I guess we should like this video so that Bianca feels better sooner and she gets to play Minecraft and get out of the game or get into the game or whatever the friends were talking about. And she is no noob, I tell you. She is a fighter. She is a brave young girl. And she is a good, calm and pleasant and sweet girl. And so am I. So I want all of you to hit the like button so that you can give your luck to Bianca so that she heals quickly. And you will also make me happy by doing that, and so will Bianca be happy. So one like gives 2 smiles to 2 people, Bianca in this book and me. So don't forget to like this video, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to my channel, The Minecraft Girl. And hit the notification bell to get to know about any of my new videos. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. I'm sure they would also love this story about Minecraft. So this is the second chapter of Minecraft The Crash, and I'll be meeting you in my next video with the 3rd chapter. Till then, adios meos. I'll be zooming out. Bye guys.